Welcome to Blueprints Unsealed, a series of reflections and thought depicting the life and times of society's most influential people, ideas, and culture. Every search for a hero must first begin with the villain. After all, a villain plays a key role in the progression of a storyline. More crucially, the villain provides purpose and gives the story meaning. However, when the motives of a villain are no longer perceived as evil, or better yet, when the actions of a villain could be justified under the circumstances, this distorts our perception, and the audience is forced to side with the protagonist, even if it contradicts their beliefs. In fact, some of the best storylines involves a villain that has a noble or just cause, and the only real reason why we may perceive the villain as evil is simply because they oppose the viewpoint of the main character. However, it seems that more and more movies are catering to the idea of a likable or relatable villain, and I'm curious as to why they take this approach. At first, the answer may seem simple, such as creating a dynamic range in character to enhance the viewer's experience, or perhaps it serves to show how we all are capable of being evil under the right conditions. But then again, rarely does the story end in which the villain is able to redeem themselves. That said, Hollywood has a long standing history of shaping the public's perception of the world, including what we think about the government, race issues, politics, economics, and so many other important aspects of our lives. Therefore, we must consider the effects on how the role of the villain is being portrayed, because these ideas can make us susceptible to falsehoods and a skewed sense of reality. Movies can reveal a lot about a particular culture. It gives us a glimpse of what a society holds near and dear, and it encompasses many of the strong sentiments felt by society during a particular time period, although movie genres will vary by region. For instance, movies produced in the US tend to always have happy endings, whereas many foreign movies will often have tragic endings. In fact, movies that originated in other countries that make its way to the US will often change certain aspects about the movie to conform to American likings. Many believe that our preferences on happy versus tragic movie endings stems from our cultural past experiences. For example, many European nations faced numerous hardships for centuries, including plagues, national disasters, and war. Therefore, they perceive death as a regular occurrence, so much that in order to cope with the harsh reality, they embrace the notion of suffering, and their films were used to tell the world about their story. On the other hand, Americans were fortunate enough to not have to experience such devastations that inflicted Europe, so this gave the US a chance to dream. Therefore, American culture and movies is a reflection of our ambitions. Despite the world's view about America, I believe that we still view ourselves as the underdog that exceeded all expectations, and our desire to achieve greatness is exhibited in our movies as a reminder to ourselves of what we can achieve. The vast majority of people will agree wholeheartedly that crime can never be tolerated by any society, and if a crime is committed, there must be consequences. But yet, the best ranking movies and television plots includes a villainous main character that commits crimes, evades punishment, and yet we root for them. Some may perceive that we aren't necessarily rooting for the crimes that the character commits, but more so that we are rooting for the underdog. However, this argument is ill conceived for reasons that are self evident. But more importantly, movies that glorify a criminal lifestyle has missed an opportunity to promote something more constructive. We may never truly understand the full extent that these types of movies has on society, but evidence suggests that these types of movies can leave a lasting impact for years to come. Just think about it. Certain aspects and beliefs that we hold may have been sparked by something we watched in our early youth. History is filled with examples of people who were inspired by things they watched or read, or their environment. For instance, Mikio Kaku, who is a famous theoretical physicist, was inspired to be a scientist from watching cartoons. Albert Einstein's interest in physics was sparked after receiving a magnetic compass from his father. It gave him a yearning to understand the forces of nature that will keep the needle pointing in the same direction, no matter the orientation of the compass. Mozart was inspired to compose music from his father, just as the US Constitution was inspired by the Magna Carta. On the other hand, just think about the influences that impacted the life of El Chapo, the infamous former drug lord of Mexico, and of course, the list goes on and on. Over the course of the last decade, we saw the character development of a very special breed of villains, which we call supervillains. They are known for their super strength, but also for their high IQs. However, I'm noticing that these supervillains also have a strong sense of a moral compass, something you would think they would lack. Take the Joker, for instance. Absent of the character's background, it's quite easy to assume that he is a psychopath, but it appears that he is fully capable of sympathizing with others. He demonstrates this by the care he gives to his maturing mother. In fact, his villainous plight was a result of being tormented for years by various people, including the ones he trusted and cared for. What makes the Joker movie intriguing is that the true villain is actually society, for those who caused him harm, and for those who stood by and did nothing. Another intriguing supervillain is Thanos and his plight to restore balance in the universe by wiping out 50% of all life. While many believe that Thanos' decision to wipe out 50% of life rather than providing double the resources was psychotic. However, not too many people are familiar with the original story of Thanos and his affection for the literal Grim Reaper. Essentially, he chose to wipe out life as a sacrifice to the god of death. That said, Thanos' actions can be perceived as an act of compassion. In fact, doubling the resources of the universe would actually cause more harm than good. This decision is actually supported by real life scientists. Also, one may view Thanos' decision as being just and fair, since he was indiscriminate of the lives that were sacrificed. After all, Thanos truly believes that his actions are not malicious, but are conceived with the best intentions. In terms of real life, I don't think that anyone would consider themselves the villain or the bad guy. After all, those terms are relative. In fact, there's an old saying that in war there are no true friends or enemies, just common interests and opposing views. The artistic way that movies can get us to side with the protagonist, no matter if their actions are right or wrong, reveals how our perception of each other is really shaped by how well we know each other. Perhaps we all played the role of hero and villain in different aspects of our lives in the perspective of others. Therefore, it's imperative that we continue to seek out common ground with one another, and perhaps then we no longer have a need to label others as a villain. Thanks for watching. Please consider supporting the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing.